Kevin Bautista is standing by. He is the governor's spokesperson. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Good morning, Sabrina. Half a day, Guam. Half a day, everyone. Jason and the team.
It's been a while. How have you been?
It has been. Yeah.
How have you been?
Everything's been going okay. I think that we've been busy as I know you are, but then we've just been fortunate that we've been able to keep COVID-19 contained at our airport, and not having any community spread so far within the last several weeks. We actually just announced our latest three cases yesterday, last night, bringing our total of CNMI cases to 80 as of October 15, 2020. So, but beyond that, everything else has been going okay.
Oh, we had 80 yesterday, right?
86 yesterday.
Yeah. Get on our level. Kev, so right off the bat, I think there's a delay because they're so far away. It's another time zone. Kev, so if you're coming into the CNMI from Guam, for example, what's the protocol as far as quarantine and all that? So what happens if I want to go to Saipan and visit you guys?
Yeah, so for returning residents, for people who have called the CNMI home in the past, they are able to avail of the quarantine within our designated quarantine areas in our two hotels, Canoa Resort and Marianas Resort. Returning residents would not have to pay anything, but then they will be quarantined for about 5 days, get tested upon arrival, and then tested again on the 5th day. And then from there, once the results are both negative, then they'll be able to be free to go and go about their business. We've learned that from experience. We've learned that the process has been smooth in terms of keeping people quarantined with next time leaving before leaving the hotels, and then be able to go into the community. But from that point on, we always encourage them to continue the 3 Ws, wash your hands, watch your distance, wear a mask, and as well as if they're feeling symptomatic, that they'll call CHCC, our hospital, and then we will be able to accommodate them if anything. But so far, the process has been running smoothly. But for non-residents like yourself, Chris, I think that it's going to be a little more difficult. Folks from Guam who do not call the CNMI home would have to pay a fee of about $400 a night in order to quarantine at our sites, and go about the process. So non-residents would have to pay $400. That would be the only difference.
So I pay $400. I get tested at the airport. How long do I got to stay in the government quarantine? Is it 14, or do you test me at 5?
We would still keep it at 5, yes. We do have an exemption for essential workers. We do have a lot of business folks that come in from Guam that do avail of the exemptions, but they have to fill out a mandatory declaration form on our governor's website to ensure that they'll be able to be exempted from quarantine.
So what if I'm going there
and so far it's been working.
Right. And so then after you get tested on the 5th day, if it's negative, are you then released into the wild, so to speak?
Yeah, you're not, your quarantine is over?
Yes, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So after the 5 days and after 2 negative PCR tests here on Saipan, both upon arrival and on our 5th day testing, they'll be able to be free to go into the wild.
Can I come in with a negative test and not have to do the test at the airport, or is everybody being tested at the airport?
So that's a great question. We've had that inquiry in the past. We've had to change our quarantine process just because one of the reasons why currently, I know that you guys utilize the P core system. What we utilize here is a community vulnerability rating system. So currently we are on blue, which is the level right before green. And I mention that because one of the reasons why that we're focusing on watching or keeping our vulnerability level before green is because we're really watching the surges that's happening on Guam and Hawaii and the U.S. mainland. So, with COVID-19, policies arbitrarily have to change. We've had to be able to be adaptive and reactive. So because of the surges that we're seeing on Guam, we actually changed the policy where even with the negative PCR test, we would still have to test people upon arrival and then quarantine them, unless they receive an exemption and declaration and approval by our Commonwealth Health Official, who's our Chief Executive Officer for CHEC, Esther Munoz.
What are some of the exemptions? I know you mentioned business people.
Yeah, so essential work, business people who provide essential services within the CNMI. Some federal officials that we've called in and have been deployed for both COVID-19 response, as well as some of the more pertinent federal responses that we've had over the last several years, which includes our responses to Super Typhoon Yutu. So we've had a lot of FEMA folks, we've had some HHS folks that have availed for the exemption, and they've been approved. However, some of these exemptions and essential work requests have been denied because they don't meet the critical infrastructure requirement or criteria, or they don't fit what our Commonwealth health officials believe is deemed as essential work in the CNMI.
Kev, what if you come into the NMI and you take the test negative, but you can't afford to pay $400 a night in the government quarantine?
So, that's a good question, Chris. But at the same time, that's exactly the point. One of the biggest reasons that we're doing this is because we want to be able to disincentivize folks that do not call the CNMI home to stay away from the islands for the time being, as we continue our work of reopening tourism and creating this concept that we're working on with the South Korean government and Japan, which is the travel bubble. I know it's been talked about in Guam. I've been seeing what GVB's been trying to do with our Mariners Visitors Authority and with the governor and our Council of Economic Advisors. We've been really blitzing a lot of things in order to get the travel bubble ready between Korea and Japan so we can reopen tourism. The governor recently announced in his weekly press conferences in our local radio station that we are at the point where we should be ready to reopen tourism and to reopen the floodgates for visitors. One of the things that we're trying to work on is reopening our community-based testing initiative. And this includes having some Korean scientists that we've contracted again recently to implement the Solgen tests that we've had in order to continue the community-based testing, but also our testing at the airport, and then doing some changes to our policy to ensure that our testing at the airport stays tight in order to make sure that we can get tourists in from both Korea and Japan.
When are you looking to reopen tourism?
So ideally, we're hoping that we can get some sort of reopening by December. That's a very optimistic projection, but
Right.
we do have some plans of a charter flight from Korea that will be coming in around December. That would include some folks who have called the seat in my home in the past, but also at the same time there's some renewed interest from Korea about folks that are wanting to come here for education and for business. So we're still monitoring this closely, but right now we have a charter flight scheduled for December, I believe through Asiana, and then hopefully opening up the entire tourism market, if not December, by early 2021, hopefully by January, and to meet that peak season.
Wow, I think that's really interesting because you guys are talking travel bubble, and you have contained the virus. I mean, it is what it is. You've contained the virus. We're talking about a bubble here on Guam, and we're a freaking COVID hotspot. I mean, I don't know what GVB's smoking over there, but we're trying to do a fight bubble for a fight organization from another COVID hotspot to come to our COVID hotspot, and the government's going to foot the bill. And but I reached out to Jerry Perez, Bree, and they don't even know how much it's going to cost. He's still waiting on it. So I just think that's interesting. Obviously, it's way more prudent to wait till we have a handle on the virus, and I don't know how good of a look it is that we're trying to create a bubble where you can't really create a bubble because we don't have a bubble here. We've all got it's crazy with the COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's we're really praying for you guys, and we mean that sincerely. As you know, I know it's been reported by both the governor of Guam as well as Guam Homeland Security. We coordinated a donation of about $150,000 worth of PPE that we donated from Governor Torres and our Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation to GMH to meet the demand for frontliners at that GMH. So we donated about 1,000 surgical masks, 14,000 face masks, and 19,000 isolation gowns to be used by frontliners at GMH, about 154,000. And the donation was coordinated with Governor Liu's office. Dr. Jolene Ogden, who is a great partner here for the CNMI, she had a meeting with the governor recently and got this through. Ted DeLeon Guerrero, who's our Guam Medical Referral Office liaison. And we've also had contacts with Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes' office and Senator Will Castro's office.
Can I just go back because I wasn't sure if you come in and you can't afford the $400 quarantine hotel fee, what happens? Do they just turn us around? U-turn, get back on the plane, get out of here, scram.
To be honest with you, we really haven't had that problem. That $400 price line's been able to get people to not come here. And it's not to say that we don't want our brothers and sisters of Guam to not come here. I think that they have every right to come here if they choose to. I mean, we obviously for family reasons, we've had those requests in the past. And we've been able to make the policy flexible enough for people who call Guam home but who have family in Saipan or Tenia Naroda to come here. I think we've had an instance in which there was a family funeral a few weeks ago where we've had some Guam family members fly in, and we've been able to be flexible about it. I see.
So there's some kind of hardship exemption or something in place. So like, let's say, for example, my cousin or, someone passes in Saipan and I come in from Guam, there could be something worked out where I'm bro, can't afford this, and maybe you guys foot the bill or whatever.
And really be released from government quarantine. We do have
so we've been very flexible about it.
We have a question from one of our former reporters, Tomas Manglotnia. He's asking, have there been talks with United about implementing the same testing program they have between SFO and Hawaii?
That's a good question, Thomas. Half a day, Tom. So we have had that discussion. We understand United's SFO and Hawaii SFO Hawaii route testing policy. A lot of this has to do with the capacity within our local United Airline staffing. We have a very good relationship with David Baker, who's the manager here on Saipan. He has been essential in how we were able to get United to just stop the flights back in April, where we were able to stop United flights for just about 3 weeks approximately to be able to contain the spread back then when we saw that was the peak of our community spread. But again, United here is limited in their capacity to implement a program like that. For us, notwithstanding United, our COVID-19 task force has been, and CHEC has been testing at the airport at every single flight that comes in, every single time a flight comes in. So in terms of having United do the testing themselves before arrival, I can't speak for United on that front. We've had those conversations, but when they do step on Saipan soil in the CNMI, we stand ready to continue testing, and we've been doing that consistently, and it's been working, and we hope it continues to work.
Can you give us an idea of what it's like there? Because over here we're under PCOR 1, and some businesses are closed, some businesses aren't. We can't have a dine-in here. So what are you guys just open?
I know, because I saw on Chubby Robby's Instagram he's eating out with his friends and they're doing food reviews. What's up, Chubby Robby? I was like, damn, Chubby Robby going out to eat. Got the whole crew with him. Here we are, stuck on takeout. I can't even get a lumpia past my face shield.
First off, shout out to Chubby Robby. I think he's been really killing it in social media. Representing the CNMI hard. You kind of have to, celebrate that.
When I think about him though, Kevin, and you say repping the CNMI hard, yeah, what, Chubby Robby? I love the songs. It's good. It's a cool guy. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, life here, I don't want to say it's truly back to normal. And I also hate having to use the phrase new normal. It just kind of frustrates a lot of people normally and naturally. But at least for us here, people have been very, very compliant with the governor's directives. The governor has said it consistently. We wouldn't be here without the help of our community. In a very cliche, but also very true way, because without them really adhering to the directives, we wouldn't be at this point where we're able to fully, pretty much 90% reopen our economy. In terms of what still remains closed, is our casino remains closed. Our e-gaming operations have opened up slowly, as long as they have been inspected by our COVID-19 task force and our building code inspectors to ensure social distancing. But beyond that, everything else, and with the exception of the curfew that we still have, it's been pretty solid living here in the CNMI. I think it's a blessing to really see how good the community's been taking it. Businesses have reopened up. I had a great conversation with the bar owner Saturday when I was out. And he was really thankful that we put in the work. I think a lot of luck is involved, but I think putting in the work at the beginning of it to get to this point where I was able to go to a bar on Saturday. Yeah. Socially distanced, of course. We had there was some dividers left and right within the bar, as mandated by our COVID-19 task force and our ABTC folks. But to have this opportunity to achieve some sense of normalcy within our community, I think is a blessing in itself. And I really think it's an achievement that's shared by the community, by the governor, and of course our first responders and CHEC and our task force.
What about a school over there? Are kids doing face-to-face?
Great question, Bree. So the schools have reopened face-to-face instruction. I think the last time that we talked, we were in the process of slowly reopening them up. I think we were just getting out of our temporary restrictions, which happened at the same time that Guam implemented, that the governor of Guam implemented the restrictions herself. But then we were, I think we were a few days out until it was expiring, and we were beginning to see, or we were beginning to have the schools reopen face-to-face instruction. And so far it's been working. There hasn't been any reported cases from the schools. We have a good relationship with the private school coalition and our public school system. So they have it's a hybrid program, obviously. So you have the face-to-face instruction, you have the online instruction, and overall it's been pretty solid. I think that schools have been very compliant with the COVID-19 task force social distancing requirements and sanitation guidelines, which were based off of CDC. And then also schools and institutions just constantly asking us questions if they ever need anything. And I think just having that open dialogue with them is important.
Right. We got a comment here, Kev, from Bruce Camacho. He writes, honestly, I believe much credit goes out to the task force, the administration, and the general public's cooperation to following guidelines. I guess the public learned the importance of coming together during disasters since Typhoon Sudalor and Yutu. When community-based cases became zero, the task force did strict enforcement with inbound flights. Since then, community numbers have been zero. And this is something we're really struggling with here on Guam, is the unity in the community. We've got these factions in our community that protest about the opening of businesses, and it's the relationship is almost adversarial with the different segments of our community. Did you guys experience that at all? Because I'm not sure if I ever saw that, and I don't know if you guys would, because again, you guys have contained the virus. So was there ever that part? And I know that with the politics and CNMI, there is a lot of headbutting, and I mean it's tough. We can see that there are certain politicians don't get along with others, but you guys have been able to, it looks like on the surface, move past that, whereas we haven't.
Yeah, I mean, it's an even numbered year, Chris, as you know, and politics is a means to an end, and I think that just as everything becomes political, especially on a small island. I think Guam and CNMI politics, they're beasts on their own, right? Like comparatively speaking to the rest of the country. But yeah, we've had those factions. We have folks that have discounted or that have discounted a lot of the efforts that our current leadership is doing, just because they're on the other side of the political spectrum. But for us, it wasn't about that, to be completely honest with you. Our COVID-19 response has been dedicated to making sure that we take care of every single person that calls the island's home. And that goes beyond party lines. Thankfully enough, I think the community's been able to see that. And they have the rationality and the intelligence to see that when work's being done, the work's getting, and the work's been successful, that they'll be able to go to the polls and see the response that the CNMI has been doing, or that the leadership has been doing to keep the CNMI safe. Mm-hmm. In terms of factions, I think that we're thankful that we don't see a lot of that protesting or disunity and division here in the CNMI with our business community. We have a strong relationship with our Saipan Chamber of Commerce and of course, I think just like Guam being a small island community, we want these conversations with our business owners. We want to have it. We're not trying to shy away from them. We're not trying to not have them have a seat at the table. The governor recently redid an executive order to reform the Governor's Council of Economic Advisors and to get both small business and big corporations to the table to ensure that we have a balance of where we're at in the community. And that happened because of COVID, actually. Because we understand that with tourism being shot as it is, we don't have an industry to speak of. We don't have, right now we're just relying on federal grants. We don't have as much of a federal subsidy as what you guys get from DOD, but then What we're focusing on is just maintaining federal grants and keeping everything afloat, really monitoring relief efforts that can help small businesses and everyday residents with stimulus checks and unemployment assistance. But then again, just the division of within the community, I think we're thankful that we don't have that here on island, as we see it is in Guam, which is unfortunate. I think that while it's an even numbered year, I think we have to understand that we should continue to focus in on the greater goal for our islands, which is to keep everyone safe, our Manamco safe, our people with pre-existing conditions from severe illness, and making sure that we can get over this.
I wanted to follow up on the school situation. We did have a question here from one of our viewers on how many students per classroom.
So it's really based on square footage of the classroom. On average, the classrooms range between, I believe, 10 to 15 students per classroom. But based off of square footage, if a school has a classroom that's big enough to accommodate more than that, within 6 feet distancing, our building code inspectors have been able to ensure that they're able to do that. So a lot of the schools are doing have a rotational schedule, where there would be two classes of 6th graders would come in at different times. So there continues to have some sort of uniformity of education.
What about the businesses and restaurants that are allowed to open? Is there a cap on capacity, or?
Yeah, the cap on capacity for our restaurants and businesses right now is at 75%.
Wow.
Given that we're on community vulnerability level blue, based off of our version of peak, right?
Yeah.
So our cap is at 75% currently, and so far it's been working. People have been really compliant with that, and whenever a business goes above that, we have a conversation with them, and then we make sure that they get back into compliance, and I think that's been helpful.
It's interesting as we have this conversation about face-to-face learning. Our Department of Education Superintendent, John Fernandez, says today, and this is something he actually pretty much said on the link on Wednesday, Bree, but today he plans to inform the Guam Education Board that there will be no face-to-face instruction offered during second quarter of our school year. The earliest we could return to classroom instruction would probably be January if things are better. Today, we remain at the highest risk based on CDC guidance. So that's our situation. Yeah, and for those of you guys just tuning in, if you're hearing this conversation about, 75% dine-in capacity at restaurants, about, Kevin here going out to happy hour in a bar about face-to-face learning, guess what? We're not talking to someone in Europe. This guy's not in the States. We're talking about the CNMI, guys, the CNMI. So when we talk about what could we do, what could we have done better, the example is just right up the way a little bit to the north.
100 miles up.
And you talk about the prep, Kevin, the early work, the curfew. We had a question here. How instrumental do you think the curfew has been in containing the spread? And what are your curfew hours if you still have one?
Okay. Interestingly, the curfew has actually been something that has been applauded by a lot of our older residents, who have come to us and have told us that a curfew would be good to ensure that folks would remain at home when they don't have to go out to do anything else. At the peak of the pandemic, our curfew hours were I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time. We're I believe 11 p.m.
Now you're just showing off.
Yeah.
No.
I'm starting to hate, Kevin.
I wasn't trying to. Yeah, I wasn't trying to.
I'm starting to eye roll over here. Oh, it's been so long.
No, but 11 p.m. to about to about 5 a.m. to about 6 a.m. was our curfew. Before our current curfew hours are now 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And the reason why it's at 2 a.m. is because we want to be it's an opportunity for us to get bars to send their patrons home by 1 o'clock, and while also making sure that they're able to conduct business as they usually do, and then call it a night, and then move on from there. It's really a policy catered to keeping people off the streets in those early hours, but also have that flexibility for folks in our community who do subsistence fishing, at that time. They usually go in around 4 a.m. So Governor, being a fisherman himself, he understands that priority, and he knows that he wants people who go out there for subsistence fishing to be able to do that at that time.
Right. Has anybody from, I guess, the government of Guam or anybody from here reached out to, I guess, the CNMI, the task force, the governor's office there, like maybe for some
pointers or something?
Advice or...
Well, Dr. Jolene Ogden met with the governor recently, both to coordinate the PPE donation that we gave to GMH, but also, notwithstanding that, I think just having an organic discussion about what we can all do better.
Yeah.
I think. I think best practice sharing is important. We're not trying, I didn't mean to flex earlier, or even try to, but then I think that the focus is that
Kev, just messing with you.
This whole interview is a flex.
Yeah. But I really think that for us, we want to be able to have that organic conversation and be constructive. I think that anything that we can do better here in the CNMI is always good, and just keeping a growth mindset and an open mind, and focus on the task at hand without having to do things because it's an even numbered year, to create some sort of division within our community is important. Not doing that, not creating division.
Yeah.
But again, I think we've had some folks within from GMH and the medical community. I know Dr. Tadella, who is our chief medical doctor at our alternate care site and our quarantine sites. I believe he's been deployed to Guam for a bit. I don't know where he is specifically on Guam, if he's in GMH, but then I know he's been helping out on the COVID response with the frontliners. Our chairman, Warren Villagomez, who's been very instrumental in our practices here, has been talking to Guam as well in the past.
That's good.
And I think that shared dialogue is important to make sure that we can come up with solutions to this problem.
So have churches ever closed over there?
Churches did close at one point, but now our churches are back at 75% capacity, to ensure that we just given our community vulnerability level, be back in blue.
But child care centers, senior centers, everything's open at 75%.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 75 is our number right now, all across the board. Yep.
Okay.
But everybody on Guam, if you're listening to this and you're thinking you can jump over to the CNMI for a weekend, guess what? Guam got COVID, so you're going to get tested at the airport. You're going to pay $400 a night, 5 nights in the government quarantine facility there. And then if you get a negative test, you can go in their bubble, basically, Kev.
Yep.
Yeah, our NBA bubble. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, this Lakers
Still
fan,
flexing,
right?
still-
Lakers fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Kev, before we let you go, we all three of us have you, on Facebook and everything like that. And speaking of flex, you have been quite the happy camper recently with the recent victory of your beloved Los Angeles Lakers, I see.
Yeah.
You've been rocking the old
I've been a
school
Laker-
Kobe jersey too. I saw that.
Yeah, Jason. That championship meant a lot to me personally. I've been a Laker fan since 2000. when the Lakers were playing the Pacers in the finals. And that was the first Kobe and Shaq championship. And since then, I've been a Laker fan, even through the bad times. And I think that just seeing this championship being won in the bubble, that really, really amazing bubble that the NBA and the commissioner has been able to put together, it's been crazy.
There is a lot that organizations, of a variety of scopes and scales can learn from how the bubble was applied in terms of managing, resources and making sure that, it doesn't spread. I've been hearing that from business people, from nonprofits and everything like that. Wow, that NBA bubble, can be used in a variety of situations because it is now a proven model. I mean, yeah, you do it in sports and people think it's trivial, but you can use it in government, you can use it in the private sector, you can whatever.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jason. That bubble concept, I think we can make the case that it's very analogous with what we're trying to do here. We don't we make sure that people who come in through the planes, whether it be a returning resident, an essential worker, or a federal worker, or whatnot, goes through our quarantine process first, and through our transportation agency, having them pretty much in like a bubble pipeline from the airport to the quarantine site, not interacting with anyone in the community, and then staying in that site for 5 days, and waiting out the quarantine.
Well, Kev, we got to let you go, but I know another team that you are a big fan of is, of course, your beloved Michigan Wolverines. We've got another Michigan man coming up later on the show, our Archbishop, Michael Burns. So His Excellency will be joining us. We're probably going to ask him about how he feels about Michigan versus Ohio State on December the 12th, because
Also, Kev, I got a message here from Dr. Felix Cabrera. I communicate regularly with Dr. Tudela and Esther Munoz. We ask each other for advice often.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome, and I believe Dr. Cabrera, and knowing a little bit about Dr. Cabrera, I think he's got some family here on Saipan.
Yeah, he does.
He got some Saipan roots, so that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So no $400 for him.
Yeah.
Does he get a discount?
No, he's a medical.
He's a medical.
Well, if he's talking to Esther Warren and Dr. Tudela,
he's got the connect.
He's got the ends.
Kev, what if I need to make an essential trip to the CNMI for blueberry bread and ice keki? Am I able to get and a piggy? Am I able to get just as a fostering a goodwill mission between your non-COVID bubble and our COVID bubble?
I'm not Esther Munoz.
Get me the governor on the line.
I'm not our healthcare official, but then I think that we can easily get some blueberry bread from Rhoda and some and strawberry bread from Rhoda and some ice keki from Garapan.
Little kabuki here and there won't hurt anyone.
No, Chris, you don't need the governor on the line. You need Herman's Bakery too.
Yeah, okay. Kev, we got to run,
that too.
Thank you so much. We really,
Thank you.
I really wanted to get you on to just show our people that there's another way. I'm disappointed in our community. I am. It's sad. I love you guys, but we're just not doing it, and we haven't had a lot of help from people that we should have had a lot of help from. So I just wanted to bring you on and kind of rub it in a little bit.
Yeah,
I know. I'm serious because our people can see that there's another side to this. This is where we could be, and hopefully, with all of our help as a community, we might get to where you guys are. And hopefully soon. So thanks, Kev.
Viva CNMI!
Thank you, guys. Just really quick, Chris, if I may, we're really praying for you guys. And we had a meeting yesterday in our Governor's Economic Council. The business community here is praying for you guys. I think that when we see people that are only 40 minutes away going through what they're doing, I got family in Zigo, as I mentioned to you guys in the last conversation. It does affect us emotionally too, and we don't want to see anything. See you guys go through this in the way that you guys are right now. And if there's anything that we can do, and it's not even about an ego thing anymore at this point for us, like it was in the past with the two island communities, But
I'm about to hang up
on
you.
The focus for us is just making sure that we can keep you guys, get you guys back up.
Well,
Guam is important.
From us here in Guam to you guys in the CNMI, I just want to give you guys a big hand. Knocking on wood. We'll light a candle and pray for you guys too, Kev. Pray that you send
you,
over
guys.
that care package. All right, we'll see you.
care.
Take it easy. Kevin Bautista. Hey, we got to take a break. And let's definitely change this conversation up as we get Dr. Hoa from the Physicians Advisory Group. He's the chairman. There was a big meeting last night. We've also got coming on the show later, we have Lillian Posadas, the Guam Memorial Hospital Administrator, Dr. Felix Cabrera, and we'll also check in with Public Health coming up here. 7:22, it's Friday the 16th day of October, and it is raining.